The 2024 wide receiver free agency market is going to be insane. So today I'm going to be looking into the 2024 incoming wide receiver rookie class, which is stacked, by the way, and the 2024 free agency wide receiver class as well, to see how those two compare and maybe where you should be investing. Should you invest in these younger rookie wide receivers coming in, or maybe you should get somebody that is already proven but is going to be going to a better team? So let's get straight into the video. Before we get into the 2024 wide receiver class, let's talk about what happened last year in 2023, specifically on the incoming rookies, right? Because we had a lot of expectations for that class alone as well. And I think it was a little bit underwhelming how these guys performed, even though we did have a couple surprises. We did have a total of 18 incoming wide receivers in 2023 with, Zach and my thought process here with maybe at least 10 players that had wide receiver 1 upside or / wide receiver 2. But that really wasn't the case. When you really break it down in a fantasy perspective, there was really only 5 wide receivers that we saw return on that investment in 2023. And some of them were surprises here. As you can see on your screen, Jayden Reed, that was a surprise. He won the second round to the Green Bay Packers. We said there was a pathway, but wasn't expecting him to be essentially a league winner for you guys. The same thing with Tank Dell and CJ Stroud. No one expecting him to be now a top 15 dynasty wide receiver, regardless of the age. Puka Nacua, a top 5 wide receiver now in Dynasty, top 5, top 7, depending on your rankings. Puka Nacua came out of nowhere there with Matthew Stafford. Obviously, Rashid Rice also picked up in the second half of the season with Patrick Mahomes. And then Jordan Addison, who saw a good fantasy success, but maybe with a little bit of an asterisk next to it because of Justin Jefferson, even though we had a couple games with Justin Jefferson and he did have success. But look, really only 5 wide receivers that we expected out of the 10 that had the wide receiver 1 / wide receiver 2 upside. Now, that's about 50% that what we were expecting, which is decent, but we were hoping for a little bit more. Now, the following receivers that I haven't mentioned that I still believe in going into 2024, just didn't get the opportunity that we expected, or maybe didn't see the best consistency either. That's Jackson Smith-Njigba, who obviously went to the Seattle Seahawks. We didn't really love how he was being utilized, but you can see the new head coach, maybe Tyler Lockett, potentially walking away. That can definitely be changing going into 2024. Zay Flowers, we saw a little bit of up and down inconsistencies. I think that is going to change going into 2024, how he was being utilized in the second half of the season. Josh Downs as well, somebody that we saw have a couple of stretches there that were really exciting with Gardner Minshew and Anthony Richardson. But with Anthony Richardson, I think it's a little bit more exciting going into the 2024 season. And then obviously the biggest bust of the year essentially at the moment, but I still have hope, is Quentin Johnson, a new head coach, and Jim Harbaugh. What's going to happen with Malik Neighbors could come in, which could really hurt him. Brock Bowers can come in and can hurt him. But what's going to happen with Keenan Allen and Mike Evans? These guys are consistently injured. Mike Evans tore his ACL, Williams tore his ACL. Is he going to be back for that week 1? Quentin Johnson, there's still hope, but the pathway is definitely difficult, no question. But now going into the 2024 incoming class, there are 23 wide receivers that are coming into this class compared to the 18 we saw the previous year. But there are 10 potential wide receiver 1s that we are projecting, very similar to last year, but I think the second half is a little bit what's more exciting here. You can see on your screen Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, Brian Thomas, Troy Franklin, Lam McConkey. The list essentially goes on of what I'm projecting a wide receiver 1 to potentially be. Some of these guys are first round, some of these guys are early second round type of picks that can easily go to a team and be a wide receiver 1 on any given day, right? If the right situation is presented to them. Now, what's interesting is that the second half of this class is significantly better than what we saw in 2023. These are the guys that have I guess you can say the wide receiver 2 stamp on them with the wide receiver 1 upside. And that are 12 wide receivers that are that. Jacob Cowing, Jalen McMillan, Tez Walker, Jalen Polk, Keon Coleman, Malachi Corley, right? You can see Ricky Pearsall, Javon Baker. The list goes on. And some of these guys are rising as I'm recording this video at the Senior Bowl. Some of these guys are falling. And some of these guys might be wide receiver 1s for some of you. I know a lot of people love Devontae Walker. A lot of people love Jalen McMillan, Keon Coleman. Some of those guys maybe have to prove themselves a little bit more to me, but still, the stamp is there for some of these guys, which is really exciting going into the 2024 season. And I'll be honest with you, that is the whole class. I just broke down the whole class for you that have wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 upside, where 2023 didn't. There was 10 out of the 18 wide receivers where the other 8 didn't have the upside to be a wide receiver 1, which surprised us once again. The Puka Nakuas, the Jaden Reeds, and so on and so forth. Now, what I did for you guys is I broke down what this offseason was going to look like with this incoming rookie class and free agency, because there are a lot of teams that potentially need a new landing spot, players that need a new landing spot. I broke it into a couple categories. Team that needs a wide receiver 1 and 2. Okay, teams that need a complimentary wide receiver 2, teams that can lose their wide receiver 1 or 2, and the teams that are already set with those players. And let's start off there. There are 10 teams that already have their wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 on the books, or I feel confident that they're not going to be investing in another wide receiver in this 2024 class. If they do invest in somebody else, it's probably a death piece. It's probably not what we expected them to go in this draft class, right? The Miami Dolphins with Tyreek Hill, the Rams, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, the Lions with Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams, who has been showing up a little bit more. But remember, they spent a first-round draft capital on him just a couple years ago. A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Nico Collins, and Tank Dell. Yes, I'm putting the Texans in this list because Nico has stepped up and Tank Dell clearly proved himself to be these wide receivers, right? I mean, Nico Collins and Tank Dell are both 15, 20 top wide receivers, depending on who you ask, which is really exciting. Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson, a new head coach, is going to be coming in with easily guaranteed another quarterback in Drake May or Jaden Daniels. These guys are going to be seeing a next step. The Green Bay Packers with Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and I even throw Dontayvion Wicks into that mix. I don't see these guys investing in another wide receiver. The Seattle Seahawks, Jackson Smith and Jigba, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett. Now, I know Tyler Lockett could be on the move, but if he does stay, this team should be set at the wide receiver position. And I think a sneaky one here that I don't think a lot of people are probably going to like, but the Raiders with Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers did get a 3-year contract extension as well. The Devontae Adams does stay with this team, even though he does lose his best guy in Derek Carr, but he gets the head coach, right? He gets the quarterback who showed him a little bit of love as well. Do they go out and get a new quarterback this year, or do they stick with Aiden O'Connell? This is a team that needs to invest in every couple other places than the wide receiver room, which is really, really interesting here, okay? Now, teams that need a teams that need a wide receiver 1, let's start there. That is only 3 teams, surprisingly, when you really think about it. The Patriots, who have DeMario Douglas, where easily anyone can step in and take over. My beloved Giants with Wan'Dale Robinson and Jalen Hyatt, they easily need another wide receiver 1 or 2. I think both of these guys could potentially be a complimentary wide receiver 2, but easily can be beaten now if they go out and draft the Malik Neighbors or Rome Odunze and then sign a T. Higgins. Like, that could be a potential big splash the Giants can do. Not obviously, probably not in this realm, but there is a world where another wide receiver 2 can come in and take over the role from Wan'Dale Robinson and Jalen Hyatt. And the Panthers, Adam Thielen and Jonathan Mingo. And Adam Thielen, yes, 33 years old, about to be 34 years old. They still need another guy. This is another team that could potentially be doing a big, massive splash for some of these free agent wide receivers that I'm going to be getting into a little bit later, which is going to be really exciting here. The same thing with Jonathan Mingo. Still hasn't proven himself, but the head coaching regime head coaching regime wasn't there essentially for Bryce Young and these wide receivers. There's a whole new head coaching staff coming in, which could be really, really exciting here. Now we go to this third part, technically, of this list is the teams that need a complimentary wide receiver too. These are the teams that can also improve in any way, whether they get a tight end 1, a wide receiver 1B, or a wide receiver 2, okay? The Bills with Stephon Diggs. I think Stephon Diggs does stay with this team. I do believe Stephon Diggs is going to want to play with Josh Allen. They keep getting there. They need to find another weapon to help him. The Jets with Garrett Wilson. This is a team that needs a wide receiver. We've seen Roma Doomsday go. We've seen Troy Franklin or, Brian Thomas go to the Jets. That is really exciting. The Ravens with Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, and OBJ just haven't been it, and they needed another weapon there. I know Mark Andrews, but they need somebody else. The Browns with Amari Cooper. As much as I loved Elijah Moore, just wasn't the play. Unfortunately, they can also use another complimentary weapon. The Jags with Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk does sign that long-term contract extension with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Calvin Ridley definitely didn't play up to standards, but you expect this team to be investing in another wide receiver coming into 2024. You have to envision that. I mean, a team that everyone keeps mocking Troy Franklin, Adonai Mitchell to the Kansas City Chiefs with Rashee Rice. They're taking up, Kadarius Toney, who? Sky Moore, who? MVS, who? I mean, these guys are non-existent, right? Unless you just need the last play of the game to ice the game for the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl with MVS, a classic, right? CeeDee Lamb. Brandon Cooks was a decent wide receiver too. I'm not mistaken. He's going to be a free agent. Michael Gallup. He hasn't been the same since that ACL tear. They need another wide receiver. The Saints with Chris Olave, the Bears with DJ Moore, the Falcons with Drake London, and then the two other teams, the Titans with DeAndre Hopkins and Treylon Burks. I can see them investing in somebody else with a higher draft capital, and the Steelers with Deontay Johnson and George Pickens. Deontay Johnson could potentially be walking. He was a trade candidate last year. George Pickens, I'm not necessarily sure if he's going to be picking it up, but anything can happen. That is 12 teams that need a complimentary wide receiver too. Mind you, we have an incoming of 23 wide receivers already. Not all those guys are going to hit. And the last category here is teams that technically can lose their wide receiver 1 or 2. There are 6 teams that could be going into the list that I previously just given you. The Bengals with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. You can see these are the guys that are highlighted in purple that are going to be free agents coming into this year or have been trade candidates. T. Higgins with the Bengals. Michael Pittman with the Colts. Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy with the Broncos have been massive trade candidates all season. They were trying to get that trade done for Jerry Jeudy before the trade deadline. Same thing with Courtland Sutton. Mike Evans is also a big candidate to be a free agent. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, what's going to happen with those two guys? Keenan Allen, does he get cut? Mike Williams, does he get cut? Do they get traded? They're older, veteran wide receivers. And that's exactly what you can see here. Those are the 5 teams. I said 6, the 5 teams that could be potentially losing their wide receiver 1s. Now let's go into the free agency. When you think of the free agency market here, this is something that can easily change your team. We have been speaking about, imagine if player A goes to the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes. Imagine if player B goes to the Bills with, Josh Allen. They need those guys. These are the guys that can come in and make a difference. Here are the free agent wide receivers that are going to be available for teams to potentially sign and get a new contract and take their team to the next level. The first one being Mike Evans, as I kind of mentioned earlier. Mike Evans, does he stay with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or does he go to the Chiefs? Does he go to the Ravens? Does he go to another team that has an elite quarterback? That is the difference here with Mike Evans. Gabe Davis, I know he has been boom or bust, but what if he goes to the right team? What if he goes to the Chiefs? That could be the field stretcher, the one-on-one contested catch type of guy. People like that thought process with Gabe Davis going to the Chiefs. What about T. Higgins, who's a free agent wide receiver? Can the Bengals pay Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase at all? I'm not necessarily sure, or paid Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, excuse me. They already paid Joe Burrow. I'm not necessarily sure T. Higgins might be one of the best free agent wide receivers coming in with youth as well, which is really exciting. Does he go to the teams that need a complimentary wide receiver too? Does he go to the Bills? Does he go to the Jets? Does he go to the Ravens? Does he go to the Jags? Does he go to the Chiefs? That is the difference maker there. Michael Pittman, I think he does stay with the Indianapolis Colts, but there is a world where he could potentially walk. Calvin Ridley, who's also been a hot hand. The Jags keep him. They give up a second-round pick to the Atlanta Falcons. Hollywood Brown, OBJ, Tyler Boyd, Curtis Samuel, and Darnell Mooney. Look, this free agent wide receiver class is actually phenomenal, which can really take away from some of these younger wide receiver too that have that upside. You think of the Javon Bakers, the Jamari Thrash, the Jalen Pokes, the Malachi Corleys, the Devontae Walker, all those guys, their pathway in a fantasy perspective could be shut down by one of these free agent wide receivers. And really about 6 wide receivers, free agent wide receivers that I really want to hone in on for you guys that I believe are phenomenal buy low candidates in a win now opportunity, or maybe for somebody that is looking to get a foundational wide receiver on their team in a free agency market. Mike Evans, T. Higgins, Michael Pittman, Calvin Ridley, and Hollywood Brown. Those are my 5 top free agent wide receivers that could potentially instantly change your team going into this season here. These are guys that I truly believe that you should be investing in, that are not getting the draft capital that they're expecting, or not getting the recognition in the fantasy world that they're expecting. Now, some of these guys probably will be. You think of Michael Pittman, who had a decent year, but if you put him and T. Higgins back to back, they're night and day when it comes down to the fantasy community. And I think that's exactly who you could potentially be investing in: the Michael Pittmans, the T. Higgins, the Calvin Ridleys, guys. So once again, 23 incoming rookie wide receivers, about 6 free agent wide receivers that can easily be an impact. And there's also about 12 teams that need complimentary wide receivers 2s, and then teams that need a wide receiver 1. That is crazy when you think of the free agency market. This is the time now in the offseason is to buy all of these free agent wide receivers if you need some. Comment down below if you have any other questions. If you have one about your specific team, or if I miss somebody specifically, comment down below who is a perfect fit for these free agency wide receivers to go to. Where would you like to see T. Higgins or Michael Pittman go? Where would you like to see some of these rookie wide receivers go as well? We appreciate each and every one of you. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And before I let you go, flockfantasy.com/land, the best place to support what you're doing here. Version 2 of our rookie scouting report is going to be out in February 1st. I want to say the same time as this video releases, or maybe the day after, just depends on when this video releases. We've broken down the whole rookie class. We have updated with team fits, tight ends, projections of where these guys could potentially be going in the NFL draft, and so much more. So flockfantasy.com/land, the best place to support what Zach and I are doing here. And as always, it's all love.
Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, LAND, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.
It's so easy, even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.